Icon is ready to close his gigantic short from the top. Why? GME's not profitable yet. There's no reason to close a short position. Serious question, G. Do you feel like the crazy Jan 2021 event is almost impossible to happen again, since the big money now knows retail figured out a small part of their plays? I don't think it's impossible for it to happen again, but I think that the setup is unlikely, right? A lot of different things would have to be in place all over again, which are no longer there, for that to reoccur. One time I wrote a Superstonk post about selling cash secured puts. You shill. Puts on GME? This is why that YouTube guy told you have like a million reports. Yeah, I know. People don't like to hear things that contradict their bias. You should have seen the mods comments. Were they ill-informed? They usually are. The thing I love most about Reddit is the assumption that the moderators of a community are somehow experts on a subject. Like me and Turd, one time we sat down with what was his name? He was one of the original moderators for Superstonk. He like quit to go do art or something. No, not was a bitch and wouldn't talk to me. No, not was a mod? Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, it was. We sat down and talked to him about all this shit, like pretty extensively, and he was just like, "Man, I don't know. It sounds like FUD. I gotta think about this. I'm just holding my like 3 shares for the moon, bro." Like they had no clue, none of them. We tried to explain to him like ETF liquidity and all the complexities of it, and it was just like he was so. And I think he thought we were, like not like with him, like we were. I think he thought we were right, but it was like we murdered his puppy. That's what it felt like. Like the whole conversation was just like it felt like we took his dog and stabbed it to death in front of him. And then immediately he just reverted back to like, no, that can't be right. Like the denialism was so strong, even though we presented evidence for everything, that like he just couldn't even accept it. And like, how do you communicate with, how do you cross that line, right? There's no way. So kind of after that, and I got banned shortly from Superstonk, like a couple weeks later. After that, I was, what was the point of trying to continue to reach across the aisle, right? Like I figured people would eventually come to the realization that everything they thought was wrong, right? And nothing was going to happen unless they were completely mentally unstable. And eventually they would seek answers. It doesn't explain away many things, including MSM behavior. I mean, you don't need to explain away MSM behavior. MSM does the same shit on every stock that, some hedge fund wants to pump or dump. They just run stories on it. Those stories pick up interest. That triggers algorithms that drive more interest. I mean, you say like MSM on GME, but the only reason, and I kind of tweeted this at someone last night, they're like, oh, CNBC talked about it. That's a red flag for me. But, CNBC is the reason, CNBC and Bloomberg and Fox Business and all of those like mainstream media that you're discussing are the only reason that people bought GME in the first place. That's the only reason people knew, right? It wasn't because of DFV and his 300 viewers or because of Wall Street Bets. That was just an addition to their story. GME was running and they fucking talked about it, and that got people interested in it and buying it. It was on all over, it was plastered all over every major news outlet from, December 22nd through July 14th, right? And they said it would end. They weren't wrong, right? Like it ran and then it died, and but that's explainable through market mechanics, right? Eventually expanding gamma will collapse, and then you go down, the price goes down. The FOMO wasn't gone. People were still searching GME every day, all the way through June, at which point interest dropped off, but so did news articles. I mean, you can look at data on this. You can look at the Google search histories for GME. And now we get barely any news about GME, right? Because no one gives a shit anymore. Motley Fool wrote so many articles about forgetting GME, right? Because putting GME in the title would draw it's clickbait, right? And Motley Fool wrote so many of those fucking articles that they actually forgot about GME themselves. I mean, that's all it is. It's just interaction driving interaction. All of this shit is automated. You know, every super stonker that clicked one of those articles and raged that they were being shilled improved the chances of another one of those articles being written. It is a feedback loop. I should have sold back when Gaff said to at 180 with Silver Rose old Discord says. I mean, it was a good price. It was definitely worth a lot more than GameStop is fundamentally, right? I'm trying to sell CCs on GME. Why is IV disgustingly low? I mean, have you looked at other stocks? Maybe then you'd complain less for the next two expirations because other people have sold CCs ahead of you and volatility on GME is frequently shorted. You're selling covered calls right now in the bottom of the volatility cycle, right? This isn't a great time to sell covered calls. You're supposed to sell the covered calls when the IV is up, not down. You buy them back when it's down. People on SS also don't seem to comprehend that shorts can average down. Well, they think they can't because they have this assumption that the only shares that are actually transacted have to be quote unquote real shares, which isn't true, right? A lender of shares does not give a shit what shares you return it. You can go make shares in an ETF, give them back to a lender, boom, short position closed. Then you fail in the ETF? Who gives a shit? They have infinite liquidity. I mean, I know it sucks, but it's set up that way on purpose. The goal of the SEC is not to get rid of, failures by creating an illiquid system. The goal of the SEC is to get rid of failures by creating so much liquidity that failures cannot occur, right? And that's very disparate from what Superstonk thinks. And those diverging goals will obviously never realize any kind of agreement, right? But that's the point, is that if Superstock is aware of that, then they should be aware that infinite liquidity exists on GME for the purpose of, especially for the purpose of settling short positions. Homeostasis? Sure. What are your current thoughts on NVIDIA? I think it's a big fat pile of shit that's super overvalued because everyone's hyped up on AI technology that won't yield any real profits for the next 5 to 10 years. Their year-over-year revenue and EPS are down 30 and 57% respectively. Their overheads are up 25%, and they're sitting on $5 billion worth of inventory that no one's buying, while being valued higher than they were last year before those earnings came in. In the end of the day, both believers and realistic people will never know the real truth. Yes, we do, because we have data and facts, and believers have faith. The faith is what's wrong, right? So what it is the end of the day, believers will never believe the truth because they believe an alternate version of it and refuse to accept facts and data. So at the end of the day, believers will be wrong, and people with, that are analyzing the data and looking at it logically will move the fuck on with their lives. You know what's going to happen is one day Superstonk's going to look at itself and realize that it's been circle jerking for 4 fucking years with no end game. And they've lost a fat chunk of their lives. And for many of them, probably a significant chunk of their money. It's not a good thing. It's bad. It's sad, even. What if I believe in the power of positive thinking? Go fuck yourself. Who sent me this fucking meme? You think that's what he was doing? You think he was trading the markets while chairing a congressional committee? That mother balls deep in 0DTs, isn't he? That's why he wore the purple bow tie. He thought it tanked the market yesterday when Powell wore his purple tie. He's like, I need to get one of those. RSS should stop attacking Kenny and maybe turn their attention to the board and RC. The only way GME is going back to 40 or 50 is if the GME board and RC actually work to make GME profitable. Yeah, well, right now all they need to do is sit on their asses and wait for more stores to close while maintaining revenues. Like you said one time, RC will make everyone in SS a long-term investor one way or another. Seems that way, doesn't it? I know the whole selling when the stock is down or under your cost basis is generally a no-no, but what kind of sign would it take to make it worth cutting from a port at lows? I mean, if you own stock and you've got to really be more specific. There's so many variables. Like I don't even know what I'm supposed to tell you with that question. Should you sell at a loss? Sometimes. Sometimes that's the appropriate choice. But I don't know what you have, so I have no idea. All this manipulation and limitless selling of securities is going to make our generation not trust the market. Good. They don't want you to trust it. That's not... Trust equals participation. Participation drives up risk. They want you to f*** off, match your 401k, and let them play with your money. The best thing I ever could have done with this stream was teach people how to manage their own money instead of letting somebody else do it and take 60%. GME will eventually change the market. It's already doing it. New proposals coming, for example. How? Change what market? The stock market? Man, no one gives a f***. GME is worth like $3 billion. My cost basis on GME is 44. I haven't averaged down yet because I haven't had the money. Is my best strategy just to wait until we hit 25 and sell CCs at 20? That's a good way of getting your cost basis down quickly. I would wait till we broke Gamma Max by 10 to 15% and then look to sell in the money CCs. Selling them in the money without breaking Gamma Max is generally riskier. You have a much higher chance of assignment. Who let the real cultists in? I don't know. I got in a fight with someone on Twitter last night or this morning. I don't remember. So it's probably attracted the more undesirable crowd. It's been a while since I ranted about GME and Superstock. It's good. You've mentioned several times in the past that you think they might eventually ban retail from options. What chance do you think that happens? I mean, they probably don't want retail with them again. They were pushing more for that after, you know, like the meme explosion in Jan 2021. They've let off. There's other things they're dealing with now, so it'll probably come unexpectedly when no one notices. Tacked onto some other bill about something else.